How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. In today's video, of course, I've got three topics to cover, starting with the PS5 is hitting an absolute breaking point and this needs to stop. The second topic is PS Plus prices are increasing around the globe and I think it's probably going to hit the US pretty soon. And finally, the latest news on Indiana Jones is cheaping out in the worst way possible. I hope you had a great weekend playing a ton of video games. I'm currently still on Adamfall. I know most people say it takes around 18 hours, but I'm finding so much stuff to do in this game that I feel like it's going to take me a lot longer. I have not had a better experience of bang for your buck than I have in a long time with this game. I think that made sense. But yeah, let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. Let's get into the first news story here because this all exploded over the weekend. There are price increases pretty much across the board in a lot of major territories surrounding specifically the digital PS5. And this is just, it's approaching a breaking point really with how expensive this console is getting this far into its life cycle. So there's a lot of math involved here. I tried to do it behind the scenes. I found some great articles that break everything down, but to just simplify it as much as possible, the digital version of the PlayStation 5 in Europe, the United Kingdom, Australia, and a few other territories is basically increasing by $100. So take their currency, add 100 to it, and that's what you're paying for the digital PS5. And this is crazy because it's happened before. Back around the time the PS5 launched, all of these territories saw a price increase pretty much across the board. This time around, thankfully, it's just for the digital model. The United States did have a price increase on the digital model, but they were sneaky about it. So when the PS5 came out, it was $400 for the digital, $500 for the physical version. And then when they put out the Slim, it went to $450 for the digital and stayed $500 on the physical version. So we got a price increase. It wasn't as bad as everywhere else because I remember back when it happened, I think in the United Kingdom specifically, they all got basically a $70 price increase across the board. So this is on top of that original price increase, which is just inflating the cost of this thing to a degree that I understand why people are so adamant about staying on the PlayStation 4. Sony has not done a good job at least advertising the massive incentive there is to upgrade. And when they're charging this much, I mean, I don't think people can generally afford to pay more for this because it's not like they're saying, oh, the economy's doing great, we're going to increase the price just to take advantage of people having more money. The economies around the world are not doing great everywhere. In the United Kingdom, Europe, Australia, the economies are in a bad spot. So Sony is basically being forced from their perspective to increase the price so that they can make money on the console in the first place. But it's having a weird consequential effect to where people don't have money to spend on basic everyday goods like electricity, groceries, and everything else. So how are they supposed to afford an entertainment system like the PlayStation 5 if the price is increasing to match everything else? Now, I understand the perspective that a lot of people like to bring up, especially when you talk about this related to Nintendo, that gaming is a luxury at the end of the day. But for a long time, during the PS4 generation, especially during the PS3 generation, towards the tail end of it, gaming's needle was moving. If the needle's either ends are luxury and commodity, the gaming needle was moving a lot farther towards commodity than luxury. You were able to get consoles cheaper, especially back in the day. If you didn't want to pay for a console at launch, you could set your watch to it basically being half off by around 2 or 3 years in. There's that great ad during the PS3 generation with Kevin Butler where they dropped the price to $299 of the PlayStation 3, which is half off from where it launched. So you could get the console if you just waited, and you were generally rewarded for that because by that point, a lot of the big games were already out for it, at least the launch window games, and they'd be heavily discounted because once the launch window expires, a lot of people see the flaws in those games and the sheen of a new shiny thing coming out wears off, and then the games are evaluated as they should have been when they came out. So you could get a console half off, you could get games more than half off, and you were sitting pretty. But now everything's getting more expensive. The game prices have not dropped. They're about to increase to around $80. There's rumors that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to cost $100 when it comes out. And then on top of that, the consoles aren't getting cheaper. They're not even staying the same price. They're increasing in price and you're not getting anything for it. Arguably, the slim design of the PlayStation 5 looks worse than the launch model. It runs exactly the same, but if you want to get better performance, you've got to pay even more for the PlayStation 5 Pro, which in the United States is $700. So things are just getting completely out of whack in terms of how much this stuff costs. And I feel like a breaking point point is coming. RGT85 has got to feel so vindicated right now because he's been doing videos for a year now saying, hey guys, everyone's saying that a video game crash is coming, but it's not coming. We are in the middle of it. And when you look at what's going on with game pricing, console pricing, the lack of sales, everyone just playing free-to-play games like Fortnite or Warzone or anything else and spending their money there instead of buying boxed games. And when they do buy boxed games, they wait till the price falls to around $40 or $50. I kind of see where he's coming from. Like, there is an absolute breaking point, and if we have not hit it already, we are on it. Like, we are on the line about to step off the cliff into a breaking point, and we've already seen a ton of layoffs at all the different publishers and game manufacturers and everywhere else in the entire industry. I feel like that was just the beginning. Like, there's about to be a reckoning where unless your game comes out and is a massive 10 out of 10 and sells tens of millions of copies in the $70 AAA price range I'm specifically talking about, you're probably gonna have to close your studio. Like, it's really getting that bad. It used to be easier back in the day when they were able to put games out every 2 to 3 years, where you could like kind of take a trip and fall on a game and be okay to release another game a couple of years later. And as long as it was at least decent, it would keep your studio afloat. Now, big studios like Naughty Dog or like Santa Monica Studio or Insomniac, if they put out a stinker, I mean, Sony's going to look at them and say, hey, we just had to raise the price of the PS5 console and we are not selling nearly as many PS5s as we want to be. We're going to have to make some tough decisions about whether or not to keep your company open. And I'd guess that they're probably going to go with shutting a lot of these companies down, which is not going to help the problem of there aren't enough first party games. It's going to get even harder for them to put out games if they start shutting studios down. And then you look at the Marathon situation, and I definitely feel like a lot of the hate that game's getting is forced. People are calling it the next Concord, and like, I don't know. I don't think it's anywhere near that bad. Like, to me, as someone who has 1,000 hours in Destiny 2, it looks like a game built in Destiny 2's engine with just a radically different new art style and a new form of gameplay. My problem with it is that they're charging money for it, but it's only going to have 3 maps and a few characters at launch, and then there's going to be a battle pass. Like, you're charging a premium for a game that's going to have very expensive microtransactions. They're obviously looking at how Helldivers 2 did it, but the difference is Helldivers 2, you could play that game and get most of the stuff that they charge money for free just by playing the game. Like, I didn't buy a war bond for at least the 3rd or 4th one. Like, I was able to get most of them for free just by sinking hours into that game. And that is not going to be the case with Marathon if you look at the trajectory of Destiny 2. Like, the amount of money Bungie asks for to play that game is absolutely insane. Like, people love to say that it went free to play. The free to play version of Destiny 2 is a glorified demo. Like, you can get a few hours out of it, but if you're a free to play player, like, you're going to be asked very quickly to start ponying up some money in that game. And it looks like how Marathon is shaking out is the exact same. And I feel pretty bad because I've sunk like 1,000 hours or so into Destiny 2. Like, I really liked that game for a long time. I fell off of it and I was looking forward to an extraction shooter, and it blows my mind that no one ever brings up Hunt Showdown as like the best extraction shooter, because it is. It's not charging you $250. They've got decent monetization. Like, it's a really fun game that you can sink hours and hours into, and people are like, extraction shooters don't exist on console. They do. Hunt Showdown is a very similar game to what they're doing with Marathon, and if people wake up to that, I think that's going to be even worse for Marathon. And if Marathon stumbles and falls in the way that a lot of content creators are making it seem like it's going to, that's it for Bungie, man. Like, they don't have anything. They were bleeding money when Sony bought them. They fudged their numbers to make it look like they were doing amazing. Then after Sony bought them, Destiny fell off a cliff. Like, they just don't have the amount of money, cachet, or quality coming out that's going to support the hundreds of developers that they have under their employ. So when you've got an industry where they're charging this much for consoles, they're not doing price drops, people aren't buying games, and the games that they are coming out with are taking 5 to 6 years to make, like, there's just no good way out. They have to just reformulate the entire industry. Like, you've got games like Lies of P, you've got games like Phantom Blade Zero, Onimusha, stuff that's like classic style. PS2 era stuff that's going to take 20 hours to beat at most and justify the cost of entry, that's coming out, but it's not from Sony. But when you've got got games that take 5 years to make. The consoles aren't getting cheaper. They're actually getting more expensive. We're going to talk about this more in the second news story too. Prices increasing with PS Plus. Something's got to change, man. Like they need to kind of just take a step back and reformulate the way they make games, because we cannot keep going down the current trajectory. But yeah, I feel for you. If you haven't gotten a PlayStation 5 yet, the time to buy was launch, because effectively that's the cheapest it's ever going to be. By the time they start dropping the price, I feel like they're not going to. I feel like they're going to release the PS6 and just remove the PS5 from shelves as fast as possible, or they're going to drop the price dramatically, but you're going to get bad performance like you currently do on the PlayStation 4. Like there really is no win outside of buying these consoles at launch, and that's the worst time to buy because there's no great games. It's just like launch stuff that you play for a few weekends and then you're done. So yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out. I think there will probably be a price increase in the United States. I know Sony shipped a ton of PS5s over here to kind of counteract the tariffs, but like when they run out of those, they're going to really have no choice other than increasing the price of the PlayStation 5. So get ready, guys. If you don't have one, you might want to buy one now. And speaking of price increases, PS Plus across the board, so Essential, Extra, and Premium are all getting price increases. Now, at first I wasn't worried about this because the list of 15 countries were mostly Central American countries and like mid-Asia countries, like stuff that doesn't really affect the westernized world. But then I saw that Australia is getting a big price increase across the board as well. And this is something else that I feel like will have a knock-on effect, because this is exactly how it went when they raised prices in the EU, the United Kingdom, and the United States. They started in a few countries, like the 15 that have already had their price increase recently, and then they moved on to everyone else. And like, you guys know how I feel. I don't think they're justifying the cost of even Essential. Like, we've had some decent games come out on there for sure, but like by the time they actually come out, I mean, you could get the games for $10, $20 at most. And I feel like if you did the math on what you actually download from PS Plus Essential versus how much you're paying, I feel like most people are giving Sony more money than they're taking advantage of, because you have to remember to go in every month and add each individual game to your library. It doesn't automatically give them to you like it should. You're really just paying to access the internet on a device when you're already paying for internet, and I think that sucks. PS Plus Extra, I don't hammer too hard because the library of games is good. Like, if you miss the PS4 generation, you basically have access to every first-party Sony game, and that's worth taking advantage of. PS Plus Premium was not worth it when it came out. It's still not worth it. The features you get for it aren't anything crazy. In the classic library, it's honestly just cheaper to buy the games that you want to play individually instead of just taking advantage of the entire library. Or if you had a PlayStation 3 or 4 and bought a lot of these games already, thankfully the vast majority of them are free to download if you've already bought them on other consoles, which is my case. So they're not doing a good job kind of making PS Plus Premium feel premium or even worth it in the first place. So increasing the price, I mean, I get the economic realities of stuff. You're kind of having your hand forced, but like, I don't know what the move is, right? Like, they could be the good guys and keep things cheap and say, yeah, we know things are tough right now, like they did during COVID, where they gave away a bunch of free games, and they say like, hey, enjoy your entertainment while things are rough and you're stuck inside your house. But like, if they do that, there's no influx of printed money just coming in. Like, money was flying around like crazy from 2020 to 2022. They could afford to make big swings and do crazy stuff like that because there was a huge influx of money, both from printing money and people being stuck inside and spending more money on entertainment. But obviously when people went outside and the economy started to stabilize, all that venture capital money and just infinite money that was coming from everywhere, it went away. So they can't afford to do that this time, even if it would give them a temporary win. Like, just going back to the last news story, it feels like we're in a video game crash, and it's kind of nuts. And finally, speaking of bad practices by Microsoft, they're joining Nintendo in doing the stupidest thing ever, which is not putting their fucking games on the disc. So Indiana Jones has been out since December. They've had the PS5 port in development for a long time now. It's coming out very soon, I think like April 17th, and you are able to buy this game physically. Now that is a win, because if you look at other games Microsoft has released, like Forza Horizon 5, which is coming out soon, that's not even available physically, which really blows. So at least Indiana Jones, because it's Bethesda, I guess, is available to buy boxed for the PlayStation 5, but because the game is over 150 gigabytes, you can't actually fit it on one disc. So whereas Sony or Rockstar or a good publisher like Square Enix, for example, they would say, oh, we've got a big game and we can't fit it on one Blu-ray. What do they usually do? You get a cool double pack like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where you get 2 discs in the box. So one has a ton of game data on it, you install that, and then the second disc has a little bit more game data on it and it plays the game. Microsoft, of course, cheaps out and doesn't do that. So Indiana Jones, you'll get 20 gigabytes of the game's data on the disc, and then you're going to be asked to download over 100 gigabytes of game data as soon as you put the disc in the console. Now, of course, internet has gotten worse since the PS4 and Xbox One generation. We got better speeds, but in return for the better speeds, we get data limits. So people have to worry about downloading a 100 gigabyte game because it might cap out their download limit for the month, and then they'll start paying more on top of their already inflated internet bill, and that just sucks. Also, 20 gigabytes on the disc, you have way more space to take advantage of. I don't understand why they're putting the bare minimum amount of data on the disc. Like, you have an entire disc and you're using like 10% of it. If you want people to download like 20 gigabytes, that's fine, I guess. I'd prefer the entire game be on the disc, or you do a double pack, but like just 20 gigabytes, why even put anything? Like, just put the little license key on the disc at that point and ask people to download the entire game. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I really hope that Sony doesn't catch on to this, because one of the biggest benefits of Sony is that you get most of, if not the entire game on the disc. Like, a lot of their games do need day one patches, which sucks because that's why we don't have Days Gone 2, and there's plenty of other examples of that biting them in the ass. But also, when games come out in their complete form, like Horizon Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima, or Death Stranding, when they got their director's cuts, the entire games were on the disc, and it was awesome. People have used the term game preservation, like it's so nerdy when I hear it or read it online, but like that is a legitimate argument, I guess. Like, it's going to be hard to play these games going into the future. It doesn't matter anymore because they already are selling a console without a disc drive. They're selling the PS5 digital edition. They're selling the PS5 Pro in only the digital edition. So like when the PS6 or 7 comes out and there literally is no disc drive, all these games become paperweights after your PS5's life cycle ends, like it dies. What's going on, guys? Like, what are we doing? This is just ridiculous. Like, we're paying them, we're giving them money for a service, and they're treating us like we're just their little subjects, we're little puppets or puppet masters or whatever, and they're just like, you will take whatever we do. And I feel like they're about to learn a really hard lesson. Not any specific company, it's going to be game developers, it's going to be Nintendo, it's going to be Microsoft, and unfortunately it's going to be Sony. But there's got to be some mea culpa where we reorient things to be pro-consumer, because the amount of just bending consumers over a barrel that's happened in the past 2 generations, it's getting ridiculous. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.